increase. So this award lets me know that
Good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao. Hola. Bienvenue. Wan Ying. Bienvenidos. Bienvenidas. Namaste. And welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemmological storyteller. And each week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and put them all together into a story. Over the years, I have discovered that many of the same characteristics, the same traits, the same beliefs that we have for gemstones, you can find those same characteristics in people. So what I do is I take those gem stories and I use them as a template, as an inception point, as a bridge to help people all over the world, to empower people, to remind people to discover the value of their own stories, of how they resonate with other people, and how they interact with the light. As Barbara put on there, happy Bastille, although today is only the 12th, I want to say happy Bastille Day for those my friends and family in France. So that's on Friday. So happy Bastille Day. And today's a really special show for me. Thank you, Barbara. Because this is my lab. Because as most of you know, a lot of you know, that I have a business called the Gem Hunter, Gemmological Appraisals and Storytelling Services, art, science, history, and magic. And this symbol, this logo, is the symbol of this company. Because all these gemstones, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, citrine, which is quartz, diamonds and gold, the whole history of mankind really revolves around these gemstones. Last week, I say all the time in this show, and I usually say it in the beginning or say definitely in, that nothing has value without a story. I want to first thank all the subscribers, Ronique, bonjour, and all the new subscribers to this show. Thank you for your support. Thank you so much for your questions, your comments, the phone calls, the texts I get. I appreciate them so much because it makes me, all of you make me think deeper, make me really sit back and reflect on what this thing is, the connection between gemstones and people. This week, or last week, I introduced you, if you didn't already know, to this ring. It's called the Sunrise Ruby. The Sunrise Ruby is a 25.5 carat, unheated, untreated diamond and ruby gemstone or ring, valued at $30.4 million. $30.4 million for a gem, for a ruby that's maybe a little bit larger than the size of my thumb. The most expensive gemstone ever sold. Well, that's not a diamond. The Sunrise Ruby. And I got so many comments from people saying, how can you spend that kind of money on a ring, on a gemstone? How? So I thought to myself, if I'm going to really talk about a ruby, and this is, again, happy birthday for those of you who are born in July. Ruby is your birthstone. But in order to understand the power of a ruby, you have to really first understand what it is. Why did someone or a group of people decide to spend $30 million on the gemstone. In order to understand that, you have to understand it's not just the gemstone, it's the color, red. Red is a whole completely different color. So I entitled this show, Gem Hunter Stories presents the transformative and seductive powers of the color red. Red, as you remember from elementary school, red is part of what's called the electromagnetic spectrum. And that little part in the middle, which is called visible light. That's the light that we see. That's the light from the sun. And you guys remember back from third grade, repeat after me: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. That's what red is. Red is a part of those colors. Red is a wave. It's a wavelength. Red has when you measure the wave, red measures at 700 to 750. Some people say 610, and that's a little bit, but let's say 610 to 750 nanometers. Nanometers is very small. So that's what red is. So, but when you really understand red, when you think about, that's not the reason why those people bought, whoever it was, an individual, a woman, a man, a group, bought a ruby for $30.4 million. To understand that, you have to understand that red is magic. When I say art, science, history, magic, this is what I'm talking about when I say magic. Red is magical. There's no other color that's like red. In fact, when you look at red from a evolutionary point of view, the first colors that we see as human beings, other than the consciousness of black and white, which are not colors. Black is the absorption of all the colors. White is the reflection of all the colors. But red is the first color that babies see, that human beings see, all animals see. They have a relationship with red. So the first thing you have to understand about red is that red is a genetic color. Red speaks to us from not just the metaphysical point of view, but from a spiritual point of view. It's a part of our DNA. And when you really begin to think about red, what red is in terms of a story, red is not only the story, it's not only the background of a story, but red is a character in that story. Okay, this is going to be kind of deep today, so take notes. Red is not only the background of the story, red is that story. It is the character. It moves, the story moves because of red. And all of us understand that on a deeper level. We understand that when you look at this ring, some of you are salivating right now. I love this part. When you see this ring, you understand if you were wearing that ring said something. Look at it. Look just the beauty of that ring. This necklace. Imagine going out and you putting those earrings, that necklace on. It says something. It takes you to a whole nother level. And all of us have had those red moments. Remember as a child, we saw The Wizard of Oz, and we saw, especially little girls, you saw your first real understanding of red. Those of us who are, older, understand that when you saw Dorothy wearing those red slippers, and you saw her clicking her heels 3 times and said, "There's no place at home," you believed when you watched that movie. Some of you are saying right now, "Oh my God, that's my favorite movie." And part of that is because of the relationship that you had with red. You clicked your heels 3 times. There's no place like home. Because you believed that those shoes were imbued with magical powers. You believed it. For me, my first real understanding of red happened May 25th, 1977. And those of you who already know what I'm going to say. When I first walked into the Lowe's Valencia Theater on 42nd Street, and I saw Star Wars, when I saw Darth Vader, black and red, as you can see, are my favorite colors because of that moment. When I saw that imposing figure standing there, you know how you see a movie and you don't necessarily know who the bad guy is? The moment I saw Darth Vader, I said, that's the bad guy. I knew that I wanted to be him. I wanted to be him. I wanted to have that type of power. I didn't really understand it, but it's because of what it meant, the symbolization of what red represented. That's what red is. That's what red makes you feel. Their understanding. So when you see red, what does it make you feel? What does it make you want to do? How does it touch you? How does that color, think about it, even though it's just part of the visible spectrum, that color right now is affecting all of us in some way. That's what red is. So when you see a ruby, it's not just that it's a ruby, it's something else. And as I said last week, what is a ruby? A ruby is aluminum oxide. That's what it is. It's aluminum oxide. The oxygen is the second largest, most abundant element on Earth. Aluminum is about number 7. Yeah. And actually, aluminum is hard to get, but aluminum is number 7 in regards to percentage of what's that on the Earth. Aluminum oxide. That's the molecular structure of a ruby. Of a ruby. That's it. Aluminum oxide. Nothing exciting. I told you that what aluminum oxide, if you're not using it in jewelry or some type of gemstones, what aluminum oxide is, it's an abrasive. It's usually used in sandpaper, or in making aluminum. That's aluminum oxide is used to coat aluminum, to pull aluminum, because aluminum is never found by itself in nature. It's always mixed up with something else, usually bauxite. So you have to strip it out. That's what aluminum oxide is. That's what it looks like. In fact, you can buy it. Here it is with a hint of chromium. That's what gives it the red color. When I think about gemstones, I always think about God. To me, God is a woman, because I think just the organization of the universe requires a little bit more than it requires a female touch. So in my mind, when I say God, I'm always thinking God as a woman. So when I think about gemstones, I think about God sitting there deciding what she wants to make. And she says, aluminum oxide. That's nice, but it needs a little something. Those of you who are cookers, as they say in France, and cookers, you understand that extra added spice. That's what red is. That's what a ruby is. It's aluminum oxide with a hint of chromium. That's it. That's chromium. You can even buy aluminum oxide by the tub. 2 pounds. You want a 2-pound ounce of aluminum oxide? There you go. But that's not what you buy. That's not what you are into when you see a ruby. So the question really is, why? And this is where it gets really deep. So follow with me. A ruby is part of a larger class of gemstones. It's a family called corundum. Rubies and sapphires are actually the same gemstone. They are both made of aluminum oxide. So when you see a ruby is red because you put that hint of chromium. Anything else is a sapphire. Anything else is a sapphire. So rubies are red because of chromium. And then anything else, all the other colors of the rainbow is called a sapphire. Sapphires come in 10 different colors. It comes in blue, yellow, black, green, white, pink, purple, orange, gray, and brown. Now, I said that, but some of you need to see that. So here we go. This is the sapphire. Blue, orange, yellow, purple, black, green. I love that. Just look at that. Bluish purple. This is called a cashmere sapphire. They don't even, this has been mined out. Those of you who are born in December and your birthstone in Tanzanite took the place of this gemstone. This is called the cashmere sapphire, worth at least, I don't know, $50,000 per carat. Purple, orange, pink, gray, brown. Yeah, these are all rubies. So understand that a ruby and a sapphire is the same gemstone. They're both made of the same chemical composition. They have the same basic molecular structure. This is not the molecular structure, but a molecular structure. And just what's inside of it, just those little elements inside. And for again, ruby, it's chromium, but for sapphire, it could be a whole assortment of different elements. It could be iron, titanium, cobalt, lead, chromium, vanadium. I'm missing something. Magnesium, and silicon, and boron. Those are the different things it's inside of it. Now, this is the part you need to get. I want you to, when I talk about a ruby or a sapphire, what I want you to do is imagine yourself. Because what I'm actually saying is, here's a ruby, here's a sapphire. They're born underneath the same family, which is called corundum. And rubies are red, sapphires are every other color of the rainbow but red. Now, this is how it relates. This is how it relates to you. Some of you have brothers, you have sisters, you have family members. You were born under the same house, but yet you are different. You are different. And the difference in that, the difference that makes a ruby so highly valued, the thing that makes a ruby worth $30.4 million is what you believe. It's the story. Think about it. Everything that you believe about a ruby, about the color red, came to you by virtue of a story. That's the magic. That's the magic, because you're talking about a gemstone that's been around for 8,000 years. When you say that a ruby brings you is a stone of courage, how did you get there? How did you get to understand that a ruby is a stone of courage? How did you get to understand, how did rubies get to represent passion? When they chose the color of lights of Darth Vader's lightsaber, why did they use red? Because they knew that it would resonate with you. They knew that it was part of a story. They knew that because of how red can represent passion and love, and red can also represent evil. You never see the devil in light blue. You never see the devil as a green devil. The devil is always red, but yet people relate that, don't think about that when they bought that $30 million ruby. And we understand that because red is a color that touches a whole lot of things. We all know what the power of red is. This is a Richard Mille watch. This is called the black skeleton, the black skull. $1.4 million, $1 million. I think it actually auctioned at $1.4 million for a red watch. Yes, a timepiece. $1 million. Yes, right here. I mean, imagine having so much confidence in just the power of this watch that you literally listed online, add to the bag. Okay. That's the power of red. That's the power. Now, I don't know what this watch, well, I do, but you may not know what this watch is made out of. You may not understand. This watch tells the same time that any watch tells, but because this is a red watch, it takes it to another level because it's red. Because of the story, because of what you believe, because of what you understand. When you put that watch on, it makes you feel different because you have bought into the story. Every woman understands that. Every woman understands. You don't. I don't even need to see this woman's face. When you see this dress, you know, yeah, okay, she's not playing. Wherever she was going that day, she knew she was going to be all that in a bag of chips. Look at her. Look at just the red. It's not that she's a woman of color standing in some street in the middle of the street, just standing and posing. It's because she's a woman of color with a red dress on. Look at her stance. You don't know what she says. You're not saying what she's thinking. You don't know who she is, but you know, you can sense the power of it. That's what red does. There's no woman. Lubus, when I first heard about Lubus, I was like, a $1,500, $2,000 pair of shoes? Why? Because they're just not heels. The designer who created that, put that red bottom to let people understand. He wanted women to understand their power coming and going. That when she walked away and you saw those red soles, you understood. Yeah. Every woman understands that. Every woman understands the power of red. And even people who don't like red knows the power. They understand what red does. And I'm not just talking to the ladies. You believe the story. Take a second to think about in your closet. What do you have red? That you know when you wear it, that's your power suit. That's your power. Think about what Superman had a red S on his chest. You had no problem with him wearing red shorts, red cape. Red. You believed in the story. Gentlemen, look at this man. Look at the way he's walking. It's not that he just has a jacket on or a pair of slacks or shoes. He has a red jacket on. Red is a color of power. So when he put on that jacket this morning, or whatever day it was, whatever time of day it was, he understood that he was all that and 2 bags of chips plus a 64-ounce pop. He understood that. When you go into an interview and you wear that red power tie, notice red power tie. You know what it does. You know how it makes you feel. That's the power of red. So anything that red touches elevates it. Again, nothing has value without a story. So you have bought into the story somewhere along the line. You bought into the story of red. It's so deep that I read that Kublai Khan, you have to pronounce his name correctly, Kublai Khan, who was the Khan of all Khans. He was the emperor of one of the largest empires in the entire world, in the history of the world. Literally, the emperor of Mongolia, supreme leader of Mongolia when Mongolia was Mongolia. Kublai Khan was the grandson of Genghis Khan. And you guys know about Genghis Khan. He wanted a ruby so badly, a large ruby. Now, you have to understand that he lived in the land of rubies. Part of the land that he conquered. The finest rubies were found in India first. That was all part of their dominion. So when he found and saw a really large ruby. And rubies don't actually come in that large a size. That's why $30 million for a 25 carat ruby was like phenomenal, extraordinary because of the size part of it as well. Not only did you have a red ruby, but you had a large red ruby that was untreated. So 1,000 years earlier, when Kublai Khan saw a red ruby, he felt so strongly about it. He believed in the story so much that he was willing to trade a city for it, an entire city. That's what value is. That's what value is. When you buy into the story, someone told him a story. And because that story resonated with him, he felt the need to trade for a ruby. A whole city had no problems with it. And I've read it in many texts. So this is something that actually happened. Because, in fact, this is what Marco Polo wrote when he talked about his travels in the Orient. He was there when that happened. Ruby, the story. You believed in the story. This is Kublai Khan. Does this guy looks like a guy that just like he's, prone to, well, I don't know what I really want. Look at him. A whole city for a gemstone, not a sapphire, not an aquamarine, not an emerald, for a ruby. And when you really think about that, rubies and sapphires are the exact same stone. The only reason why he felt like he felt about that stone was because it's red, because of the color. He believed it. He believed in the story. Some of you are starting to understand. Some of you are starting to understand. Let me use another example. The United States Marine Corps, something that I've done for 14 years. The United States Marine Corps, hoorah! Not to mention, look at our logo. Look at our seal. It's in red. Our colors are red. The United States Marine Corps believed in the color red so much, in the power of red, that they literally in 1941, they issued, and you have to understand, the Marine Corps is real particular about what they issue. So if they issued anything, that they really thought about it. And in 1941, the United States Marine Corps during World War II issued lipstick, mandated that every woman Marine, or what we call WMs, every WM had to wear, it was required in their uniform to wear red lipstick. They had Elizabeth Arden, the Red Door. Remember who remembers Red Door? God, that was a wonderful perfume. I know it's still out there. It's just a wonderful perfume when I think about it. But Elizabeth Arden created the color, the tube of lipstick called Montezuma Red. And every woman Marine, every WM was required to wear. Look at it. It literally, not only did you buy the lipstick, the blush, the nail polish, the scarf. And if you were a woman Marine, it matched your uniform. And the reason why the United States Marine Corps issued this is because Adolf Hitler hated the color, hated the red lipstick. He hated red lipstick. So in 1940s, red represented victory. Red represented patriotism. There was a relationship between the power that the United States Marine Corps, the United States government wanted to imbue in the world, that we are Americans. Our strength, our power is evident in everything we do. 70% of all the flags in the world for representing countries has red in it. 70%. Victory red. Look at it. We've all seen old 1940, 50 movies about World War II. And I always wondered why the women would wear red lipstick all the time. So it's like, is there any other shade? I didn't realize it was mandated, that it was part of the story. Even when I was in the Marine Corps, I used to always notice that the women would wear red lipstick. I didn't know why. because they believed in the story. And when we get back, then I'm going to show you how that relates to you when we get back from the other side. All right, we're back. I want to read something to you from the Book of Stones. Rubies eliminate feelings of hopelessness or defeat from one's thoughts. They open the wellspring of optimism and determination needed to accomplish difficult goals. They impart a feeling of power to the wearer, improving self-confidence and adventurousness. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want a stone that does that? Who wouldn't want a stone that they're saying that will empower you? There's some of you right now who are listening to this saying, man, I need a ruby. Imagine wearing a stone that could give you that sense of power. Now, here's the trick. Here's the understanding that you can take away from today. I want you to understand that the same mental processes that make you believe in this stone, that make you believe in the powers of this stone, of any stone, but in particular, when we're talking about red and a ruby, it's all part of a story. When you hold a ruby in your hand, it doesn't automatically just imbue you with this power. When you wear a red dress or wear a shirt or red watch or red pair of Lubus or with any kind of shoes, the power does not come from the shoe or the dress or the ruby. The power comes from here. This is what As a Man Thinketh talks about when they say very soon so altered has her mind become, because you believe in the story. She utilizes all her spare time and means, small though they are, to the development of her latent powers and resources. You believe in it, and that's the power of it. That's the power of not just gemstone, but rubies in particular. You believe when you wear this brooch, you believe in the power of it. You believe in what it can do for you. Now, take that same power. Take that same power and understand that when you understand the power of a story, you can do anything you want to do. You can be anything that you want to be. I mean, within reason. I want to dance for the Bolshoi Ballet, but, unfortunately, I don't have the body for that. But if I believed in that story, that I was a dancer, then maybe I may not dance for the Bolshoi, but I'll dance for somebody, even if I'm just dancing in my living room, because I believe. If you were to wear this necklace, let's not talk about the money or anything else. If you had this necklace, when you decided, ladies, gentlemen, if you wear this necklace, this is not just a necklace. This is not just something you have on your neck. This is not something you just wear with your clothes. You have the expectation that this necklace will take you somewhere. That this necklace will take you somewhere, not only just in the real world, but in the metaphysical world. You drive down the street, you wearing this necklace, or someone opens up the door and you sit in the back of your car, the limo, and you sit in the back and you're like, wow. And you feel like master of the universe. Why? Because you believed in the story. You believe in what that gemstone can do. Now, why can't you do the same thing for yourself? That's what this whole program is about. If you understand, if we have a gemstone that's made out of aluminum oxide, where is it? This is aluminum oxide. This is what it looks like. This little piece of this is it. This is synthetic. It's synthetic. I found it. I told you in a restaurant there was a whole trough of these. And when I was talking to the person who I was having lunch with, and I was telling her about gemstones, and I just happened to pick this up. And when I started looking at it, I said, "Oh my God, you know what this is?" And she said, "What?" I said, "This is a sapphire." And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And I actually had my loop with me, and I just said, I looked at the loop and I said, "Wait a minute, this is a sapphire." And I looped it, and I said, "Yeah, it's a synthetic, but that's what this is." But yet, even though this large sapphire, synthetic, and I told you last week, synthetic and real is the same thing, but this does not have the same value as this. This is much larger than that. I mean, of course, it's the big picture, but this sapphire is much larger. This piece of aluminum oxide is much larger than that piece of aluminum oxide. But this is $200,000. This ring, rubies, gold, and diamonds, $200,000. This, and it probably cost them maybe 30 cents. Why? Because of the color. Because of the color, because of what you and I believe in that color from birth. Imagine understanding that power that you have, that all of us have inside of us. That all of us have inside of us, that we can take a story that we believe in ourselves and become anything we want to become. Remember, I told you, those of you who watch this show all the time, I told you that 30 years ago, where I was homeless 30 years ago. And I told you that I made a promise to God that if I ever got out of homelessness some kind of way, that I would spend the rest of my life helping people feel differently about themselves, because I knew how I felt. I knew the reason why I was there. It wasn't because of alcohol. It wasn't because of drugs. It was because of the way my mind was thinking about myself, the way I told myself, the story that I kept hearing over and over and over and over again, that I wasn't nothing, that I was a rock. And once you start to change your thinking, you can become. That's no different than what a ruby is. It's no different than what a gemstone is. You have to believe in it. You have to believe in it. When I made that promise to God, I had no idea what I was going to do with it. None. It was like, well, what do you do? In the universe, God brought me this whole concept of gemmology. And as I started reading about the different gemstones, I started saying to myself, wait a minute. This is a belief. Everything, if this is a gemstone of courage, it's only a gemstone of courage because you believe in it. If this is a gemstone of passion, a lot of women are starting to buy rubies in their rings because they want something that speaks to them on a higher level than just a diamond. So women are wearing rubies as that show of passion, of that show of love. And because of whatever you think it is, that's your ring. If someone presented that ring to you, that ring means something to you, not because you're thinking of it just aluminum oxide, carbon in terms of the diamond, gold, which is an element, as a metal. No, it doesn't mean that to you. It means you think about where you were, who it was, how does it feel when it's on your hand? You believe in that story. What can you do with that? We live in a world where so many of us do not understand our power, do not understand our value. thousands, millions of people are walking around feeling like they're rocks, feeling like, like, what do I have to show for 20 years, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of life? What do I have to show? And that's because you haven't taken the time. Many of us have not taken the time to understand our value, discover the value of your story. That's what I'm talking about. No different than a ruby. Understand what the qualities of a gemstone is just like you. Even more so. A ruby is rare. A gemstone has to be rare. A ruby is rare. Well, is a ruby rare in comparison to you? You're even more rare than a ruby because there's only one of you. There's only one of who you are. Whatever your name is, put that name there and just say there's only one line. Pete, Barbara, Sam, Diane, whatever your name is, there's only one of you. You are beautiful. A gemstone has to be beautiful. You are beautiful. And I'm not just saying that in a, you are the world kind of way. You're beautiful because you are a collection of elements, of atoms put together in your particular format, in your molecular structure. That's who you are. Tall, skinny, fat, thin, black, white, male, female. There's you. And there's 8 billion of this, just like there's gemstones. But there's aluminum oxide. There's no shortage of aluminum oxide. But aluminum oxide that has become a ruby because it just happened to be in an area where there's chromium. Now that's special. And the chromium for you, that added spice, not just the rubies, but all the other gemstones, all the other sapphires, the boron, the manganese, the iron, the titanium, the lead, the chromium, the palladium. Those are the things that you put inside of you. Education, reading books, going to the gym, eating right. So what you're actually doing is no different than what we do with gemstones. What the universe has taught us that gemstones that happen to gemstones can happen to you. You and the thing that makes us more amazing is that we get a chance to choose. We get a chance to choose whatever we want to be. That's how I started realizing, wait a minute, hold on a second. You mean to tell me that you have 2 gemstones that are the exact same chemical composition, and just because this gemstone happened to have chromium in it, now it's worth $30 million? So extrapolate that to you. You are whoever you are. And because you decided to start drinking more water, to hydrate yourself, because you decided to take that class in whatever subject, you decided to literally use the stories that you heard about your grandmother, your grandfather, your aunt, your uncle, who could really cook a wonderful cookies, macaroni and cheese. You see colors because of who you are. You see colors in a completely different way than everybody else. So you decided to become a designer. How's that any different? And there's a whole, unlike gemstones, even though there's ruby, there's 10 different, well, not 10, there's a multitude of varieties of colors that sapphires can come in as a mixture of basically iron and titanium and all those things. You can do the same thing for yourself. That's the magic. That's the magic. When I say art, science, history, magic, that's what I'm talking about. The magic is the story. If you bought this, I mean, just look at it. If you bought this, what does it mean? What would it mean to you? What would it mean? What would it symbolize if you had the funds to buy something like this? And it all comes from this. This is a rough ruby. That's what it is. It's a rough. This is a ruby rough. This is what it looks like in the ground. And then from there, from something that simple, from something just two elements with a hint of chromium. You guys are going to really know this. Like, I don't know about any other gemstones, but I know about a ruby. Becomes something. When last week, when I read this, wearing a ruby has the effects of energizing and activating one's physical, mental, and emotional bodies. That's what comes from this book. You have to believe that. And as I started thinking to myself, wait a minute, if you believe that, if some of you wear rubies, some of you already understand that the relationship of that gemstone to your Ronique. I met her, just a new viewer. Welcome again. The other day, the first thing she said to me is how much she loved minerals, how much she loved gemstones, that how many gemstones that she had in her collection, and that she's now designing her house or the doorway of her house with gemstones. Because why? Because that gemstone was automatically had that power? No. That gemstone has a molecular structure. That gemstone has a chemical composition. Everything that she believes about that gemstone came from a story that she believed in. That's the difference. And what I want you to show you is that there's almost no human emotion, no characteristics, no trait that a gemstone does not relate to in some kind of way. All those stories that you hear about gemstones, you believed it. That's the power. Rubies enhance one's passion and fortitude, allowing for the wholehearted pursuit of one's greatest aspirations. So that means, imagine you put that ring on your finger. You're going for a job interview. You wear that red tie, you wear that red dress, those red shoes, your red lipstick. You have, what this is saying is, you have the expectation that you're going to be radiating, resonating on a different level, because you believe in what that color, not only what that color does, but how that color relates to you as a person. That's what the gemstones does. That's what gemstones do. They show you in a very simple way what we all have the power to do on a much higher level. Some people don't like rubies. Some people like other gemstones. Some people, aquamarine is their stone, or emerald is their stone. Whatever your stone is, your stone has a story around it. Your story has something that people, it just started out. Here you are. Simple. Just simple, basic, before it's cut, before anything happens. That's you. You are, you, me, and everybody. We are all part of the 8 billion people on the planet. 8 billion people on the planet. And everything you believe, everything that you believe about that stone came from a story. Everything that people understand about you will come from a story. And that is the seductive and transformative power of the color red. That's why 8,000 years later, I can talk about rubies in this way. Imagine being able to do that with yourself in just the short amount of time that we all have. What is your story? And it's not about being famous. It's not about being on a New York Times or whatever, some television show. It's about waking up every morning and understanding that you're a ruby, that you have, this is your value, this is your color, this is how you decided to put all the whatever chemicals that are inside of you that makes you a human, and then you added a hint of education, a hint of fitness, a hint of understanding. That's what you did to become something beautiful. When you wear or carry ruby, it's as if the synchronicity angels can see you better and send you more beneficial surprises. Come on. Who said that? If you pick up a ruby today, is that what's going to happen? As soon as you wear a ruby, as soon as you pick up a aluminum oxide with a hint of chromium, are you automatically imbued with that power? No, you're not. You have to believe in the story. You have to believe in the story. That's the power of it. Think about it. And there's so many different levels of evidence that we have, that all of us have, that of people who had absolutely nothing, and yet they became. They became because they understood who they were, the way they interacted with people, the way they resonated with the light. So your homework assignment today is decide what you are. Decide what kind of value you have. Decide, I don't care if you take it from television, books, or whatever. Decide who you are, what type of the character you are in your story, the hero in your story, and then see how that radiates out. Think about the stories that you're telling yourself now, and then all those stories helping you or hurting you. That's your homework assignment. So again, I hope you enjoyed today. We're going to continue on with this journey of rubies and red, and just, it's magnificent. And I'm so happy and pleased and honored to get a chance to share it with all of you. So again, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a Gemmological Storyteller. And until next week, Ottatella, au revoir, voila. Here's a gem bit. It turns out that the color red is so powerful that the United States Marine Corps used it as a weapon. During World War II, they issued red lipstick called Montezuma Red to all their WMs, or women Marines. It turns out that Adolf Hitler hated red lipstick. Wow, a woman Marine in red lipstick. Now that's a weapon for you. Discover the value of your story.